Hey everybody, it's Randy Schwantz. I'm here with an old friend of mine, Manard Warren. And very seldom do you get an opportunity to speak with the most profound, most astute, most knowledgeable person about any one thing on the planet. And this man knows call reluctance and what stops salespeople from doing that thing which they want to do. And I've seen amazing evidence of it, and that's why I wanted to have him on today. Say hello, Mr. Maynard.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Randy.
There we go. So, Maynard, how long you been doing this thing with the SPQ call reluctance profile?
Well, first, let me say, when you introduced me and said those nice things, did you notice how my posture changed? And all of a sudden, I'm like puffing out my chest. That was because of you, Mr. Schwantz.
Well,
So,
you earned that. You earned that exclusively. You earned that. So good on you, man.
yeah, thank you. Thank you. Well, you talk about call reluctance, a lot of misnomers about it. And by the way, I am the foremost authority in the world on this very nuanced niche. Our mission, Randy, is to help sales teams, salespeople to transform their careers. That's our mission. Just so happens that currently we are getting the name out there. We're letting people know about, first of all, what is sales call reluctance? And sales call reluctance is a collection of 12 specific, potentially debilitating patterns of dominant thought that when they're present enough in the mind of a sales professional, they can shut down the show. What I mean by that is and we refer to this as head trash.
Hmm.
So when a salesperson has sales call reluctance, and for the remainder of this, with your permission, I'll call it head trash. Is that okay?
Yes, sir. Yep.
So when someone has all this head trash, these activities that are somewhat easy for a top-notch sales professional, meaning, okay, today I make 20 calls. I know some people are going to say no. I know others are going to say yes. No big deal. I make 20 today, 20 tomorrow, et cetera, et cetera. Well, 80% or more of salespeople don't do it that easily. They get all up in their head and they've got this head trash that says, whoa, 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 time out, time out. You're telling me if I make 20 calls today, 15 to 18 people are going to tell me no? I didn't sign up for that. When I hear the word no, all of a sudden I have the come aparts. All of a sudden I have stress. I've got tension. I've got anxiety. So you know what? I think my time would be better served to go read that manual about this new product that we've got here at ABC Company. Yep, that's what I'm going to do. And guess what, Randy? I'm going to double up on my prospecting tomorrow. And that happens all around America. It's happening right now to 80 or more percent of salespeople who logically know the best utilization of their time, effort, and energy is to get on the phone and reach out, have a touch point, reach out to a prospect. Logically, they know that. Emotionally, they want to do it. They know they need to do it. They just can't. And that's the impact of all this debilitating head trash, which, by the way, we measure in our SPQ Gold assessment. We measure the presence of each of those 12 specific, potentially debilitating patterns of head trash. I said a lot there, Andy.
You did say a lot. Let's talk first of all. What is the source of that head trash? Because these are, for the most part, very solid, talented, rational people that become irrational at some point, and this is the point, right? So what is the source of that head trash?
Well, by the way, that point, we call it the moment of truth. Moment of truth in that nanosecond when a salesperson decides either A, I take the appropriate revenue generating action, or B, I take an escape route. By the way, these escape routes become hardwired, and it becomes what we do every time that potentially stressful situation pops up. Immediately, because we are talented, immediately we start to take those escape routes. And we totally avoid all the stress and tension and anxiousness. We become masters at taking escape routes. Now, where does it come from? It comes from three different sources. One is childhood and the way you're brought up. Another is heredity. But the most common way that people, quote unquote, catch this head trash is from either other sales professionals that they trust and respect, or more prominently, their managers. And then a third source are people like you and me. For instance, let's say that I showed up as the quote unquote out of town expert, Randy, like you and me, right? We're out of town experts. So I show up and I'm presenting to a group of whatever, 50, 500, doesn't matter. And I make this declarative statement. Folks, I've got 30, 40 years of experience, and I found that Mondays are a horrible day to make prospecting calls because nobody's in the mood to receive calls on Monday. What have I just done? I've given that group all collectively head trash because I'm the out-of-town expert. And they're like, well, if he said it, our company hired him, it must be true. So I'm never going to make another call on Monday. That's how it happens.
So it's a collection of that kind of stuff. I mean, you could get to where you could make a call from 8 a.m. to Friday at 5 p.m. You could find reasons all along the way, couldn't you?
Oh, absolutely. All this head trash is situationally based, which means even if I'm inundated with head trash, I don't have it all the time. I have it a certain amount of the time, a certain percentage of the time. So it's based on situations and my self-talk around that situation. What we know as rationalizing adults, just so happens we're in sales, what we know is that we can control our actions. We don't have to do anything right now. So if a situation pops up that causes us stress, tension, anxiety, the likely thing that we're going to do is hesitate, procrastinate, and avoid. Why do we do that? So we avoid the sweaty palms. So we avoid our face going flush. So we avoid the heart palpitating. So all these negative thoughts that I'm starting to enter into here in this conversation, what comes along for the ride with the negative thoughts are physiological reactions. That's what causes us to avoid and to take escape routes.
So a couple of things as we go along. You said that you've got a profile that will measure those different call reluctances. Is the reason people don't pick up the phone or prospect or ask for introductions, all this sort of stuff, is it always because of head trash?
What a great question. It is not, sir. There are 4 reasons. There are 4 and only 4 reasons why a person who's got ample knowledge and ample skill, it's only one of 4 reasons why they don't do enough proactive business building activities to reach their sales goals. If you don't mind, I'll go through them in the order of importance. The first is, do they have motivation? Motivation is willingness to do the things necessary to build your business. That includes prospecting, of course, to reach your sales goals. We assess that on the SPQ. And so that's gas in your tank. Without gas, nothing else matters. That's the biggest deal that connects to success in commission sales. We just did a study.
So then it always starts off with motivation, the gas in your tank, the reason, the purpose of something that I want to achieve. And if that's not really clear in my mind, then it's easy to avoid doing those things or just get rerouted or misrouted or whatever. Is that what you're saying?
That's 100% correct.
Okay.
Yes, that's perhaps a better way to say what I just said. So that's motivation. Second thing is what are your goals? So since I talk with a Southern accent, I'll spell that out. GOALS. Goals. What are your goals? That gives us sense of urgency. Goals give us sense of urgency. Think about this for a second, Randy. When you've got someone who wants to do all the activities, that's motivation. And then you've got somebody with that ample, tremendous sense of urgency, which comes from how clear and ambitious our goals are. Man, that's somebody with a huge achievement drive, phenomenal work ethic. That's who we want in our organization. With that being the case, those folks can come to your organization, Randy, and still have head trash, but they're able to fight through it, at least for a length of time. They're able to fight through the fear and do it anyway, at least for a length of time until the emotional strain starts to outweigh the potential financial gain. And that's one morning, that's when they go to their boss and they're like, hey, I'm out of here. We call that quit while succeeding.
Yeah.
So those are 2 things, but I mentioned I'd say 4. The third reason, by the way.
Okay, hang on. Before you get to number 3 and number 4, which are beautiful, I want to go back to that distinction between 1 and 2, the distinction between motivation and goals. Can you help me with that even more precisely, if you don't mind?
Motivation is the collection of physical and emotional energy that we bring to the job every day that we can use however we want to use it. We measure that. We measure how much motivation, meaning physical and emotional energy, does someone bring to the job on a daily basis that they're prepared to put into revenue generating activities to build their business.
All right, so let me restate this. As a
Okay.
basketball player, I'm ready to go play. I want to go play. I'm physically in good shape. I'm here to go do something. Then we're going to go over to now we're going to get into goals, which is okay, now that I'm ready today in my practice, I'm going to go do, 50 right-hand layups, 50 left-hand layups. I'm going to shoot 30 free throws. I've got some black and white goals, black and white things I want to achieve. And so coming with my gas tank full is different than now getting clear exactly what I want to accomplish. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. Very, very well
Okay.
said.
All right. I'm getting it. I don't know that I really had thought of it that way before. So thank you very much.
Motivation, want to. Goal level, need to. Where head trash comes in, Randy, is when we try to convert that motivation into revenue generating activities that support us achieving our goals. And the head trash says basically, I'm motivated, I want to. I'm goal focused, I need to. But my head trash says, just not now. Can't do it now. So it's going to be better to wait a week to call back these prospects because I want to give them time to listen to my voicemails. I don't want to be pushy. By the way, I'm explaining the number one type of head trash that impacts about 50% of salespeople in the US. It's called yielder. Yielder. I'm glad this is a spelling competition.
These Southern boys, they spell it so you understand it, and then they misspell it, so then they have to respell it. But that's all good, man. It makes you human, brother. It makes you human. It's a beautiful thing. Yeah. All right. So the number one head trash is yielder. I'm yielding. I'm giving up. I'm going to take another line, and that mostly becomes apparent under what situation or how do you know that you are a yielder?
That's such a good question. Typically, yielders, okay, they have an emphasis on building relationships. They're basically, they would tell you flat out, Randy, I'm a relationship oriented salesperson. That's awesome. Wouldn't you agree? Isn't that awesome? But when you obsess with it, it doubles back on you, and all of a sudden it becomes a blind spot. You don't know you're obsessing with it. It takes an assessment like what we've got to show somebody in black and white, you're obsessing with this relationship building thing. Because what pops out behaviorally, Randy, is a yielder. Again, remember, they're relationship focused. They never want to do anything that could be misconstrued by their prospect as being too pushy. So here it is, Monday morning. It's time for me to make some calls. But wait a minute, it's only 8:30. They're just getting their week started, Randy. It's not the appropriate time to call them. I think I'm going to be too pushy. I think it's better for me to wait. All right. Now it's about lunchtime, about 1:00. No, can't do it now. They're probably still out at lunch. Don't want to be, it's inconvenient for them. So I'll wait. You know what? It's probably better just to call them tomorrow. And by the way, what just took me 15 seconds to explain in the mind of a yielder happens like that.
All right. So yielder is that fear of looking pushy. And yes, because I'm such a relationship guy, if I become pushy, then it destroys that relationship. And so then those things work against each other if I'm overly obsessed with the relationship and underly obsessed with taking action, getting things, and that sort of deal. Am I saying that right?
That is so fascinating that happens. It's like the mindset that a salesperson has that allows them to serve their client well. They take that mindset and they plug it into their business building activities, and it doesn't fit. It doesn't work. Two totally parallel mindsets are required here to be successful in sales. The assertive business building mindset, which, by the way, the less yielding you have there, the better, meaning the more appointments you're going to get. But then when you're in that client service mode, it's great to be a yielder because it's all about the customer.
I've in coaching my clients to hire people, it's interesting how often they become enamored with somebody that's great at relationship. Oh, this guy's easy to get along with. They talk well. Look at them, and you get that connection going on. They hire them, and then it runs into all this head trash, which they didn't identify in the interview process, but then it starts to manifest itself because They're not making the dials. They're hiding from things. They're below their desk. They're at the golf course. They're doing something other than those business-related activities.
Absolutely.
Yielder. Gotcha.
Yielder's number one of the 12. It's the most common. It's the second most costly.
Whoa. So something else is more costly.
It's called referral aversion.
And that is costly because...
Well, referrals for salespeople like you and me, going back to our clients, getting referrals and then turning those referrals into introductions, which you're an expert at. I'm sure you've shared this with your audience. If you haven't, I'm sure you will, because you're an expert at how to orchestrate introductions from your client base. That is the gold mine. Believe it or not, 40% of salespeople have an aversion to go back to their clients. They're intimidated, they're uncomfortable, because their thought is, and I'm going to list a few of the head trash thoughts. Man, I got them to say yes to becoming a client. I don't want to ask for too much. Or, gosh, this is going to change the nature of our relationship. It's going to make it all about money. Or, if I go back to my clients, I'm going to appear needy. That doesn't fit my image. I don't want to be considered the needy salesperson, so I'm not going to do it. And Randy, the list goes on of the head trash that keeps somebody on the sideline when it comes to the gold mine. I mean, it's time to collect the gold. You've done the hard work and established the great client relationship. There's a study that I'm privy to, Randy, that says 93% of clients are more than happy and willing to give referrals to salespeople that have shown them value. That same study shares that only 7% of salespeople actively go back to their client base and ask for referrals. Look at that gap. Oh,
that's a huge gap. So let me ask you a question on this. I'm tying in motivation, goals, and the referral thing. So, as somebody, a lot of my clients, they come in different tiers, but there's a bunch of them that are really successful, making a great living, doing well. And we're going to say that they're in their 40s, maybe in their 50s, some in their 60s.
Right.
That goal factor has probably diminished some because they've made good money, they've saved some money, they've taken care of their kids, they're not as driven in that way. And now they could be working their clients for introductions.
Could be.
But I see so many of them avoiding that. So is it fair to say that there might have been time they were referral, let's go get it, and then as success and wealth and all that sort of stuff builds up, then they become aversion to it?
Okay. It's back to one or more of four things. Let me give you their excuses. All right. So the scenario you're setting up is a successful producer who maybe once used to be voracious when it came to asking for referrals. Now they never do it. Okay. Either it's A, they're not well motivated now, and it sounds like this. Man, Randy, going back and getting those referrals, that sounds like a lot of work. That's lack of motivation. Or they say, Randy, my business is good. I don't need to. That's lack of goals. Or they say, Randy, man, my calendar is full. Man, I'm so busy doing other things. I don't have time to do that. That's something we call prospecting goal diffusion. That's somebody that's busy, but they're not busy with the right activities. And then the fourth thing is the fear factor, Randy. And it's somebody that just says, yeah, I could do that, Randy. And by the way, they're not going to say they're fearful. Right. They're going to say, but it's probably something that I'll probably get to that tomorrow. And because what they're doing is they're hiding the fear factor, which is, man, when I think about going back to my clients, I'm going to appear to be needy. It's going to change the relationship. I just can't do it. But I can't tell my friend Randy that. So I need to make an excuse real quick. What's my excuse? I'm busy today, Randy. I'll probably get to that tomorrow.
All right. So you just threw out another term, interesting term, prospecting goal diffusion.
Yes, sir.
What is that?
That is, man, it's like a lifestyle. It's people that don't want to be bored. I say people, salespeople. They don't want to be bored. They need to continually say yes to anything offered to them. They don't honor their own commitments to prospect. They say yes to everything. So they overextend themselves. They overschedule. And then at the end of the day, they're like, I had 20 calls I needed to make today. Darn it, didn't get to it. I'll double up tomorrow. That is the life of somebody who is goal diffused, is they're busy, but not on revenue generating activities.
All right, let's go back and do 1, 2, 3, 4 again, just so we kind of get them all stacked up. So number one was
Number one, lack of motivation. And
Got it.
it sounds like this. Man, that just sounds like too much work.
Yep.
I'm not into it today. I just don't feel well.
Yeah. And it
Okay,
could
that's all
actually, it could
motivation.
literally be somebody, I mean, because you also get guys and gals that are working so hard. Mamas are raising babies and, they're not getting enough sleep. And you got guys that are out playing ball and maybe going out drinking with their buddies and they're just kind of tired the next day. So that messes up motivation too, doesn't it?
100%. Let me share with you an anecdotal story, and it might take this interview to the point of being weird. I hope it doesn't. But I did a training class for an insurance company last year, and there was a manager in the room. For motivation, he scored in the danger zone for basically not having motivation to prospect. He challenged me on it, and we talked about it. After the class was over, within the next 5 days, he went to the doctor. He had sleep apnea. He hadn't gotten a good night's sleep, to your point. He hadn't gotten a good night's sleep in years. How in the world is he going to be motivated?
Right.
Running on a minimum of sleep. So that's the physical part of motivation that we need to have in check. We need to have that in order. And I'll share this with you. It was like, for instance, I get up, I'm running hard like you are, and my day starts typically with phone calls at 8 o'clock, and all this it's mentally taxing. And by about 4:30 in the afternoon, I'm done. Like emotionally,
Right.
I am spent. What does that mean? It means my motivation has already been allocated, and I got nothing left. So it's not this limitless supply. It's a finite reservoir of energy and focus and passion that we bring to the job on a repetitious daily basis. So that's motivation.
That is very interesting because I mean if you go back and look at if motivation is the fuel in the tank and we only have a 20-gallon tank and we
Yeah.
run through 19.9 gallons of gas, then we're just like, man, I'm done. And the faster you run
Yeah.
through it, the quicker you get done.
Unquestionably.
Motivation. Okay. So number one is motivation. That's the physical, emotional energy to go do, showing being there, being present. Number two then was
Yep.
goals. And that was a
Goals.
finite, knowing exactly what I want to get accomplished today and this year, this month, that sort of thing. Am I correct?
You are correct. And just a caveat to that is typically not in all cases, but in most cases, good goals have numbers attached to them.
Yeah.
So that at the end of the day, you know if you hit that goal or fell short. If you hit it, great. If you fell short, now you can examine what went wrong. So
Gotcha.
numbers normally are a really good thing to be involved with when people are goal setting.
Yeah. All right. Number three was,
Prospecting goal diffusion. That's when somebody's
and
busy, 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 just doing all the wrong things.
And so busy, busy, busy really is. I've got a lot on my plate. If I'm a commercial insurance producer, it could be that I've got a lot of renewals I'm having to deal with. I'm having to deal with some on my staff. And if I'm not careful and don't block out my call blocks and that sort of stuff, then all of a sudden my day is gone. And
100%.
I wanted to, but I never set that precise goal. Here's what I'm going to get done today. And so it's easy to let it go. Or even if I
And
do set it, I find another way to get, to blow it off.
exactly, exactly. Even if you do set the goal, you find ways to not honor that commitment. I would say
Yeah.
this, and this is for most people that suffer from this. One thing for them to look at immediately is to start saying no.
No.
Start saying no. So, like a coworker, like let's say I've got goal diffusion. I sit down at my desk. I'm getting ready to make my 20 calls, 30 calls, 40, whatever the number is. And here comes a coworker, Maynard. I got this big project I'm working on. Can you come help me? Probably only gonna be a few minutes, Maynard. Turns out to be an hour. Well, how about if I would have said, I really want to help you. I need to honor this calling time that I blocked off. Is it okay if I help you afterwards? That's what I'm talking about here for folks to overcome goal diffusion. Begin to honor the commitments that you've made and get comfortable saying no.
Gotcha. All right. And then number four was,
That is the fear factor. And it sounds like this. I want to make those calls. Man, I really need to make those calls. I just can't right now. And then whatever your excuse is, Randy, is your form of head trash.
okay, so I'm gonna ask you a question. There was a time for me personally, I had just started this business and I was calling people. I didn't know much about insurance. I didn't have I had some stuff that I knew pretty well that I could bring to the table. And so I had a prospect list that I'd bought, and I start going through it on my computer, and I see that name, and I reach for the telephone, and I see a picture of something in my mind. I get this kind of negative feeling, and I avoid that, and I go to somebody else on the list without even calling them. And I might do that 3 or 4 times, and then I get up and I would go to the bathroom and I'd go get a cup of coffee and blow off 15 minutes and try to come back and muster up the courage to go do it. So,
Yes.
how do people, and to finish that story, I was fortunate in that I was involved with the world of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. I went to one of those meetings in Denver, and a guy was up on stage and goes, "Does anybody have a phobia you want to get rid of?" And I kind of raised my hand, and he goes, "What's your phobia?" I go, "Well, hey, wait. It's not a phobia. It's not a phobia. It's
Let's
not a
get
phobia.
clear.
Yeah, it's not a phobia. I just have a hard time sometimes, making cold calls." And he worked me through this pattern. He said, "Okay, when you reach for the phone, what do you see?" I see a picture of Telly Savalas with a stogie in his mouth. What do you hear?
Right.
I hear a guy saying, "What the F do you want?" I hear that in a gruff voice. He said, "Then what do you feel?" And I said, "I get this feeling in my gut." And he said, "Then what do you do?" And I go, "I look for the next guy." And then he said, "Shake that off." And I did. Then he said, "What would you like to see?" I said, "I'd like to see cumulus clouds." "What would you like to hear?" "I'd like to hear just a simple noise." "And what would you like to feel?" I said, "I'd like to feel neutral." So we went through this exercise of taking this ball of Telly Savalas with the stogie and that sound and all sorts of stuff, throwing it up into the corner, and then bringing back the clouds. They called it a swish pattern. And I don't know why it worked. All I could tell you that it did work. And I went back and I could pick up the telephone, and I never had a problem with it again. So my question to you is, I know lots of people that have, they can be friendly. They walk around a market. They go anywhere face to face. But that whole thing about picking up the telephone, that unknown, that something paralyzes them. So what do you bring to the table in that regard?
A great question. A couple of different things. First of all, for salespeople to understand that when you reach out and make a phone contact, most times you're getting voicemails. That's awesome. Why is that awesome? It takes 5 to 7 touch points to typically get somebody's attention. When you leave a voicemail, guess what? Touch point number 1. I've only got 4 to 6 more to go before I should expect them to pay attention to me. So reframing your mindset, Randy, around voicemails, number 1, is huge. What I just said is mission critical for salespeople to understand that, by the way, when they leave a voicemail, their expectation as a salesperson, their expectation should not be for that person to call me back. It's not their job to call me back. It's my job to now execute touch number 2. Could be a voicemail, could be an email, could be a text, could be LinkedIn, could be something I send them in the mail. Bottom line is it takes 5 to 7. By the way, I've done these workshops for 30, 40 years. Guess how many touches salespeople typically make before they give up? 2 or 3.
Yeah.
They have quit during warm-ups, Randy Schwantz. The game hadn't even quit.
And I think you know this, but I'm not sure you know this. In the Bignition technology platform for salespeople, because my mission is help salespeople set more appointments, close more deals, and make a lot more money and become wealthy, is that we built into that thing what I call the five-layer voicemail email system, so that you get it all mapped out. I call you up, I don't get you, there's voicemail number 1, and then I click a button, out goes an email to you, personalized, about that issue. That's 2. When I cycle back around, I see I just did that one, then I go to my next one, go to my next one, go to my next one, making it incredibly fast, simple, and effective. It's better than aspirin in terms of getting people over their headache of prospecting, right? And making the touches. Because my belief is, and it's interesting, the way Maynard and I met was because of Verizon. And we're not going to go into that story, but the reason I bring up Verizon is when I drive down the road and I see a Verizon billboard, Verizon already knows that I know who they are. But what Verizon also knows is that they want to be there when I'm ready to buy. And so the more they keep advertising, then at the point that I get pissed off, upset, I'm not getting the service I want, then I go, oh yeah, Verizon, and I'll go. So the power of the sustainable email, voicemail is continue to put in front of them a marketing message, positioning myself as a problem solver, so that when the time is right, because luck is when preparation meets opportunity. Is that when the time is right, they're either going to see my caller ID or they're going to respond to my email, or they just pick up the phone and now they go, yeah, man, I got your voicemails. And they're going to say it with kind of a bit of a funny deal on their face. And then now you got the opportunity for a conversation. So You're positioning yourself with all those voicemails and emails as a problem solver.
Man, that is awesome. Love that you've got that as part of your system.
Yeah. All right. So when I was asking you, how do I get over picking up the phone? What you said was that probably 8 or 9 or 10, 9 calls out of 10, you're going to get a voicemail anyway.
Yeah.
But what about that thing that makes me wonder, well, what if I get somebody live on the phone? Do you have methods, or is it's just being aware and acknowledging it and moving on? I mean, is there anything beyond I just need to get aware and move on?
Well, yeah, we teach something called thought realignment. And thought realignment, and I'll just give you an example, for instance, again, going back to the fact that of the people watching this, probably 50% of them are yielders. So this is going to resonate with about half the folks watching this. Yielders, again, they put a premium on having relationships with their clients. And then when they transfer that thought process to the business building process, it's defective. They're always worried about being thought of as too pushy. So when a yielder makes a contact on a Monday, they leave a voicemail. Typically, they'll say, and by the way, I've heard this just this morning from someone I'm coaching. Yeah, Maynard, I'm going to give them a couple of days. Okay, that means Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday? Oh, you're going to reach out to them again on Friday. Okay, so now you've developed your cadence. I call on a Monday, then I get on a Friday. Then next week, same thing. I quit after 3 contacts. You're on the quick trip to mediocrity, if not the poorhouse. With that system that you think is quote unquote the right system that guarantees you won't be too pushy with somebody. Here's how you fix that. I ask the person I'm coaching, all right, do you have a major concern about your actions being considered too pushy and too forward by your prospects? They say yes. Okay. When's the last time somebody said these words to you? Randy, the reason I'm not going to do business with you is because you're too pushy and you're too forward. And your answer would be, it's never happened. So it's never happened. So you've got something that's prominent in your mind that's running your career, on the verge of ruining your career, and it's never happened. What would you tell your best friend if they were concerned with something that's never happened? And you know the answer.
Move on.
Move
Get
on.
over it.
Get
Move
over
on.
it. Why worry?
Yeah.
That's the conversation flow, Randy, because the way you fix this stuff, number one, you need to be aware of it. And the thing with yielders, and actually these other types as well, but big time with yielders, is they don't know they're thinking incorrectly. They're like, I am a relationship oriented salesperson. I can never be deemed to be too pushy, overbearing, assertive, aggressive, et cetera, et cetera. So when it comes to prospecting, I'm implanting my service-oriented mindset, and what pops out is a bunch of hoo-ha that will not get them enough clients to build their business. And now they're living and dying with every yes or no that they get. And that is a horrible place to be. I've been there. It's a horrible place to be emotionally when you're living and dying on every yes or no. In what I teach and what I actually believe to my core is it's all about touches, meaningful touches. How many touch points and what's my message? You said it a few minutes ago about being a problem solver. How do I put that in my value proposition? How do I have that as my core message about problems I solve? And how do I repetitiously, in a compacted period of time, communicate that message so I'm going to use one of your words, so I can wedge myself into their world and that they're going to actually have a meaningful dialogue with me. Man, that's stuff that just comes second nature to me now. I love it. And my point is I'm beginning to realize, Randy, is what you know and what I know, man. This is kind of giving us both some props here. 99% of the people don't know what you and I know. 99% of sales leaders don't know what you and I know. I talked with a sales leader this morning. Yeah, Maynard, my style is back when I was an advisor, I'd reach out on a Monday and then I'd wait until next week. I wanted to give them some time. And his name's Kevin. I'm like, Kevin, well, that's the number one place where your advisors get call reluctance is from your guidance. You're guiding every one of your people to become a yielder, and you're virtually guaranteeing that they're not going to be a superstar. And Kevin didn't know it, Randy. He just thought this is the way to do business. This is how I did it. So it's so far reaching the implications of this. But man, what you know and what I know needs to be learned, in my humble opinion, by everybody. Just that it's a process. Take out how people are going to react to your outreach attempts. That's not even important, by the way. What's important is that I do what's necessary and required to get their attention. End of story. So what if somebody thinks I'm too pushy? By the way, I've been doing this for 35, 40 years. I have zero yielder. And by the way, my score indicates that. On this profile, my yielder score was 0, by the way. I could care less if somebody thinks I'm pushy. And yet, in 35 to 40 years, nobody's ever said, Maynard, the reason we're not going to do business with you is because you're too pushy. And so if I'm not pushy, Randy, I can't visualize somebody being pushy.
Yeah.
I'll shut up. I got kind of wordy.
Well, that's cool. The thing I want people to know is I introduced Maynard to one of my clients, and he went into some training with them, and then actually trained her in the trainer, and she continues to do that, and it's really interesting because when Maynard said what's interesting about what we both know interlocks real well together. Because I can train them all day long and what to say, how to say, get them systems to go do it. But if they've got that prospecting motivation, they've got a motivation problem, a goal diffusion problem, or fear, then any one or all of those things are going to somehow get in the way. And so anyway, she's been doing it, is getting some remarkable results where people praise her for what they're getting and learning from her, which they can thank Maynard for because he coached her up on it. So I'll say to those of you who are, if you're in bigger corporations, Maynard has the ability to do the trainer and get you set up to go do it, or he can do the training for you. Yes. I'm just saying to those of you who are listening to this, if for whatever reason your producers, your salespeople are not doing the actions, then Maynard might be a resource that you want to tie into.
And our work is guaranteed. And what does that mean? It means if we don't get results, don't pay us.
You're not going to get that in very many places when you get into soft skills like what we're doing. So congratulations on offering that. And I'm sure it has paid off for you really, really well. So
we absolutely love what we do. The mission that I mentioned early in this podcast, I'll say it one more time. What we're all about is helping salespeople transform. And that's it. End of story.
End of story. So yes. You've got a website, MaynardWarren.com. Am I correct about that?
You are correct. I have a YouTube channel as well.
Yeah. And so I'm going to tell you, I'm going to spell that for everybody. MANARD, Maynard Warren, REN.com. And I would encourage you to go check that out and get in touch with Maynard if you find this is a problem that you're trying to solve.
And can I share one thing? Maynard's my middle name. This is for your viewers and hopefully to get a chuckle. Maynard's my middle name. Think about how bad my first name is that I've chosen to go by Maynard.
Well, so since you opened the loop, so what is your first name?
Oscar Maynard Warren the third. Hi, how are you? But Randy, I think after I have therapy, I'll be okay.
Well, yeah. We'll all be okay somehow. Yeah. Hey, Manard, I want to thank you. I mean, this has been a fountain of knowledge and information, and the profile is called the SPQ Gold, so that when you go to Maynard's website, you can see that and order those, test your people, and just take it and rock and roll. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen.
Randy, thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Take care.